Well, thank you, Maureen, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us at our community forum today. This is the first one in a while. We're glad to be starting up again. And first, I'm just going to say a few words about the Mustard Seed Project. Our mission is to help and support seniors to age safely in place in their homes and in their Key Peninsula community. So we have all sorts of programs that help with that, transportation, home yard care, yard cleanup, home repairs, friendly visits, meal deliveries, and that's in partnership with Key Peninsula Community Services, who actually prepares the meals, and we just help deliver them. Classes here at the Crandall Center, sail and yoga and Tai Chi, which we're hoping to resume again week after next. We've had to postpone them for a bit due to the COVID levels in the community. And then information and referral, our Key Senior Information Center, which is run by volunteers who are seniors themselves, and they help people get the information they need and the resources that they need to thrive. And we love to collaborate, and Food Backpacks for Kids is one of our favorite collaborators, favorite partners, and they're neighbors too. They live, their family food pantry in Key Center is just right across the street from us. And we love having them as neighbors. And we were just in fact talking about, as we build assisted living and memory care homes across the street from the Crandall Center, about how we can together make this into a beautiful space for the community with raised beds and pathways and all sorts of fun things, which we'll talk about in other community forums, I'm sure, coming up. But right now I want to introduce to you, well, first, actually, the mission of Food Backpacks for Kids is really compelling, and it's a big one. Working to end hunger and create food equity, such an important thing to do. So now I'm going to let our guests speak, and I'm going to introduce to you Zaida Woodworth, who's the Director of Operations, and Michelle Johnson, who's the Director of Communications. So take it away, Michelle and Zaida.
All right. Well, we are very excited to be here with all of you this afternoon to talk a little bit about just how far we've come at Food Backpacks for Kids in the last couple of years, and the community we serve, the partnerships we have, the vision we have for the future. So this is going to be not just us talking. We'd love to have a conversation with all of you. If you have questions that you want to discuss with us, and pop in. I think Maureen has some questions for us, and we'll be monitoring Facebook for other questions. Let me give you a history of Food Backpacks for Kids, and I'll try and be as succinct as possible at how we've gotten where we are. So in 2009 is when Food Backpacks for Kids was created, and it was at Key Peninsula Lutheran Church out here on the Key Peninsula. And it was just a small group of people who were sending home, I think, 3 to 5 backpacks, literally backpacks like kids carry to school, with food in it. And they knew that there was a need, and word got around pretty quickly about what they were doing. And Karen Jorgensen, one of the founders, and who just recently has left a few years ago as our executive director, would be at the market, and people would bring her some food or give her some cash and say, "I heard what you were doing." And from there, it just continued to grow to right before COVID, when we were sending home drawstring backpacks to 300 to 400 households during our highest 400 households. And that the idea was that we would fill the backpack with food, with enough food to hopefully supplement an average sized family of 4 with some food for the weekend. The kids would bring that backpack back home, back to school. We would redistribute it the following week, and that's how we would operate. And we were going along smoothly, knowing that we were going to grow. We were just bubbling under the surface that we needed to meet the needs of our community, and what was happening. And backpacks was just one way, but we knew there were so many different ways that we could serve the community. Then COVID came. We had partnerships with the school districts. So I actually received a phone call saying the schools are going to close. So we got together, Zaida and Richard Miller, who was our executive director at the time, and we had a huddle, and we said, we can't close. So we stayed open. Within 1 hour, we created a whole new model of food backpacks for kids, and we became a drive up food distribution. So families would drive to one of the sites that we had during the week. We had 3 sites open once a week, and we started distributing food that way. And we were getting 20,000+ pounds of food in a week, and we were distributing that to our community every week during COVID. And it was a lot. And we saw the need in our community. We were able to get refrigeration and freezer space. So we were able to grow and allow us to provide meat and vegetables and dairy products and eggs for our families. We started partnering with some other organizations who were giving us produce. So we just exploded when that happened. And then we changed our model again. And we knew schools were going to go back in session. That meant we needed to reintroduce food backpacks into the schools, and we needed to change how we were distributing food to our families who were coming each week. So then we created the family food pantry. It keeps throwing the food in there. It's just the family pantry. And then we have backpacks in the schools, and we also have care cupboards in the schools, and we also have a delivery program. So that's kind of the history of food backpacks for kids and how we got to where we are currently. And I'm going to have Zaida talk a little bit about those 4 programs that we have currently and how they run and how we serve the community.
Hi, everyone. So we do have 4 programs in action every single week. Our overall mission is to get food directly to children any way we can. Although we do serve anyone in our community, our focus is always on our kids and the families that are also struggling with food on their tables. We invite our families and our participants to come shopping every week at our family pantry. They can access all the fresh foods, all of the non-perishable foods, and know that that food is always there for them. It's important to us that our families feel entitled and welcome to the resources that we can provide. And so when they come in to get their food, we give them a box and tell them to take what they need, truly what they need. It offers them a sense of continuity and helps alleviate some sense of the food insecurity that they're struggling with in their homes. In our efforts to get food to kids in all the ways, we also send the backpacks home. And the backpacks are 6-pound backpacks. They have granola bars and fruit cups and soup and easy to prepare, very kid-friendly meals. Then we also have care cupboards in 8 of our schools, almost 9. And those care cupboards, they are there for any child in the school. We can provide snacks for any hungry kid at school, and there's also food for them to take home. And so we stock them with pasta and spaghetti sauce and soups and granola bars. That's one way we can access kids whose parents aren't participating. And then we have home delivery. There are members of our community who are unable to come to our Key Center location, and food backpacks aren't enough and food pantries aren't enough. And so we can send food home. We can send milk and vegetables and frozen meats and all of the dry goods they could possibly want. Our programs are open to anyone who wants to access them. While we do have income guidelines, it's our policy to help anyone in need. People don't go to a food pantry or ask for assistance if they don't need it. And we've built our program based on the belief that all of the systems we put in place should be with the belief that everyone's doing their best and everyone is coming to us with their best intentions and their best selves. And so instead of creating stipulations that make barriers for our community, we remove those barriers and become a place where everyone is safe and welcome. And that's a guiding principle in how we operate. So since COVID and our incredible transformation, we've been able to incorporate more and more of our volunteers into program participants and more program participants into volunteers. And that's added to the feeling that everyone is welcome and part of our program. Let's see, since March of 2020, we've distributed over 500,000 pounds of food into our community, both Key Peninsula and Gig Harbor. That number is astounding. And we continue to provide food at an incredible rate. The need it's there, and it always has been. There are so many members of our community who don't have access to services because of where we live. And a place like Food Backpacks for Kids gives them a way to ask for assistance without being challenged. And it allows us to connect them to other resources within the community. Our volunteers are members of our community, and we're so grateful for them. Without them, we wouldn't be operating, and they add so much to our program. There are volunteers we have that have been part of our program for a long time.
Yeah,
Two of our
we've got some great volunteers, Zaida.
We do. So Michelle and I discussed stories that we could share with you. How some of our volunteers have become important parts of our program and how we operate. Two of our volunteers grew up using Food Backpacks for Kids. They relied on the food they took home from school every single week. And before they changed their home circumstances, that food was an imperative part of their survival. And so now that things have changed for them, they're volunteers with us, and they get to be a part of the community. They get to feel empowered to make change in our community. And this shame and the stigma that comes with food insecurity gets to be pushed off to the side as they understand their value and get to give back in a way that makes them feel important. What other stories did we come up with, Michelle?
Well, there's a lot. We have so many stories, and we love every one of the families that we serve. One that I really personally, I just love, one of our participants. She's a smart woman, just hardworking, full of life, cracks me up. She's raising her own kids, and she's taken on 2 young kids from a family member. And that puts her, in a position of providing food for extra mouths that she wasn't prepared for. Throw in a few medical bills that she needs to pay, and she found herself needing some assistance and really didn't know where to go, didn't know how to do that. And her own teenage child told her about Food Backpacks. And her daughter had a friend who, was a family member of ours, a participant. And they said, hey, they're great there. Go to them. So she came to us. And of course, we welcomed her in, got her what she needed. She started volunteering with us. She helps provide a lot for us. And she's a vocal advocate for us now. And we just love that everyone has their own story and why they come to us. And we really believe that our values that we have at the program of including everybody, bring people in and empower them. Tell me about the other one. Oh, go ahead.
Before we go to the other story, I just want to say that we serve people from so many different demographics. And part of the reason for that is because in order to get assistance from the state and many organizations, you have to prove such incredible need that you already have lost resources. You've already lost the ability to help yourself. And that itself is a barrier. there's that middle ground where people are earning too much to receive help from anyone, and yet there isn't enough money to actually support their family. And so someone like Sarah, it's we're able to help her. She's a single mom. She she needs that support, and there isn't support anywhere else. It's amazing to watch what our program can do for people, just in the sense that they feel supported. Somebody's got them when so many other doors are closing. And on our Key Peninsula community, services are really hard to access. They're far away. That's all I wanted to say there.
Yep. We have more and more stories, and we might come back to a couple. But Maureen, do you have any questions for us right now?
I sure do.
Okay.
I have a bunch here.
All right.
And just, I've come up with some questions while you were talking. It's triggered my memory of things that I've either participated a little bit in, or the Mustard Seeds participated in, and that we have enjoyed learning about from just chatting with you on a daily basis. So you said that when families come to the pantry there, you hand them a box. So is that an experience where you give them an empty box and they go cruise the shelves? So it's like they're in a grocery store?
We try very hard to recreate the feeling of grocery shopping as often as possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving and Christmas boxes that you guys have put together for the last couple of years. I hear that's been very popular.
So last year, I guess in 2020, when we did the Thanksgiving and Christmas boxes, we packed everything ahead of time for the drive-through distribution. And choosing what other people are going to eat is a very difficult process. Every family is different and unique and has their own tastes. And so as 2021 came around, we had everything organized and set up to do that box packing again. And we kept receiving incredible donations from the community that widened the array of foods that our families would have access to. And knowing that we were going to pack for the families, it became untenable, because how do we choose whether or not a family gets Brussels sprouts and fresh sweet potatoes, or prefer canned sweet potatoes? And the list goes on as to which foods they could have choices from. And so we set up all of the food and allowed people to do their own shopping. And this last Thanksgiving was an incredible experience. So many people who had never had access to our program or thought to be a part of our program came in and were truly overwhelmed by what we had to offer, and the sense of goodness that can happen at Food Backpacks for Kids, the welcome, the support. It was a beautiful day. We gave away so much food. I think we ended up calculating about 17,000 pounds of food that day.
It's like 155 families. And from that experience, like I said, we were able to connect with families who had never been in. And we had, I believe it was 20 plus families who now come to the pantry because of that, or receive home delivery because of the connection with us during Thanksgiving or Christmas time.
One of the barriers to our program is actually our name. As Food Backpacks for Kids, people don't always understand what resources are available in our program. And so getting people to walk through our doors and help themselves to our program helps raise that awareness. And Thanksgiving was a huge part of that.
Yeah, I know that when I recommend that people access your services, I always make a note. It's Food Backpacks for Kids, but not just for kids.
Yes.
Children of all ages are welcome.
Exactly.
Talking of which, how many, can you give us a rough estimate of how many grandparents raising their grandchildren do you think come through there?
Right now, we have 82 seniors, people over the age of 55 signed up. And one of the struggles our community has and enjoys is that many grandparents are raising their grandchildren. And so a lot of those 82, many are raising their grandchildren, but also many are living with their family members.
Yeah. How many volunteers do you think you have right now?
We have about 12 core volunteers who show up every single week and work hard for us. And then, you know, there are probably 50 others that consistently volunteer on specific projects or sporadically. Um, mm, and it's hard to say because then we have something like Thanksgiving where we probably had 100 volunteers all working towards that day. And so, what, you know, who are our volunteers and who are community members who work toward the common good? Because we have a lot of those out here.
Where does your food come from? And how do you arrange to get your food?
So almost all of our food comes from the Emergency Food Network. They're kind of the food bank of food banks. It's a lot of state and federal subsidized food. And then they receive grocery store donations that also come to us. But we also have an amazing community that arranges food drives for us. We have community members who bring us monthly different items that we need, such as Agnus Dei Church. They bring us tortillas by the hundreds every single month. And they've consistently supported us with different items on a consistent basis. And they're just one example of many.
Okay. You mentioned that you've had volunteers morph from participants to volunteering with you, and it kind of reminded me of the Habitat for Humanity model where people have to volunteer a certain number of hours, and I think it's quite a few hours before they get a home of their own. Is that something that you consciously worked on, or is it something that just evolved over time?
Both. Our families want to be involved. They don't want to be the recipients of a charity. They want to help their community. They want to help their neighbors, and they want to earn the food that they take. They also like us a lot, and so they want to hang around and help. And so it's a natural evolvement, but it's also an intentional way to be a part of the community so that we know what our participants need. It's part of the conversation that happens every day where we're talking to everyone who comes through the door and finding out how they are and what the needs in the community are. We don't hold ourselves aside from the community. We are just like our families that we serve. And so it's all a part of the community.
And, just a small little example. Zaida and I were talking about just the littlest things. We have the garden that we can talk more about the garden, but we're going to be putting in a little garden space, and to have our participants, our family involved in that. And then just yesterday, one of the families who's going to be kind of leading that garden project with us, she reached out to another family participant that belongs with, and she brought worms in. So now we get the worm bin going and stuff like that. So just those little tiny things that giving back and growing that sense of family. I've been saying we're the food backpacks for kids family, and truly that's what we want to be. Our community is part of that family. We have a Facebook group for our participants, for our families, where they can share different items and recipes. And hey, I've got this. Is anyone interested in this coat that I have? Oh, I've got this. And we have community members who are dietitians, who she's on there. She volunteers with us, and she puts, I told her the other day, we have a lot of kale. She put up some ideas on what can I do with all that kale that I got at Food Backpacks for Kids. So we're just sharing and living together and doing it together in our community.
I know that last summer, or perhaps it was the summer before, time is flying. COVID is just making everyone's brains spin. You had Two Waters Arts Alliance were bringing over art kits and to give out. How was that received? And is that something you'd like to do more of? Have partnerships with other organizations?
Our community partnerships are incredibly important to us. Two Waters Art, all through COVID and our drive-through distributions, on a weekly basis, they brought little art kits that we could send home to families. And it was a lovely, lovely thing. Our kids were really excited to receive them. The parents were grateful to have some activity for the kids to do. Art projects are really expensive, and trying to think of things to do with your kids can sometimes just be too much. It was really well received, and we were so grateful for all of the rainy days. They stood out there with us, handing out art supplies as we gave out food. It was a lovely partnership. We partner with communities and schools and Children's Home Society and the school district, counselors within the school district, librarians within the school district, to do fun things for the kids, but also to find different ways to meet kids' needs. And it's something that we love doing, and it adds to our kind of unique place in the community where we straddle so many different parts of the community due to the kids we serve and their parents. We're connected to the school district, but we're not part of the school district. And so it gives us a freedom, but also a safety that families feel with us, because they can come to us with more anonymity and less worry about how people might perceive them when they're asking for assistance in a more public way.
Well, I know that we're really excited about the possibilities of our residents. I'll use that for lack of a better word right now, who are going to be living across the street and be part of our Mustard Seed campus. And we're hoping that the more able of those will be wanting to join in volunteering with you and helping with the garden, and you can help with their garden and all the rest of it, and just really making much more of a solid partnership with the Mustard Seed going forward. We'd really like that.
Here, here. And, you know, I wanted to say too, I mean, in terms of the resources that you need to serve the community and your mission, sounds like you have an abundance of volunteer time and, you know, the things that you need to do that. If there's anything, what would you say that you might need more of to even serve the community even more, or in a bigger way? Anything that you can think of that you would need more of?
Well, we always need more food, especially fresh food. And that's part of the idea behind the garden. And it's a guiding principle in how we spend our money and what we ask for. Fresh milk, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits. That's always huge on our list. As part of the bigger picture, I guess a continuance of the generosity of spirit in our community. I can't say how much I love our community enough. And knowing that we're just part of a group of nonprofits that believe that we are all in this together. And it's not just COVID, it's all of the systemic pressures that harm our families and our community members. Knowing that someone's there to help. You know, what to ask for more help, I guess. Funding is always the thing, right?
Right.
And a little bit of a follow-up there is, you know, what do you what do you see for the future? You know, garden beds you just mentioned briefly. What kind of things do you see in terms of growing?
We see so-
Well, you
We have
know,
a
Zaida
lot
and
of
I
ideas.
dream big. We dream big.
Good.
Thank you. I hope that we continue to grow and we have goals of becoming more of a grocery store type atmosphere. And a lot of our energy right now is focused on finding the funding to make that more of a reality.
Mhm. You know, part of what makes it growing and part of makes us part of this community and listening, our community really is our participants and our families, and we really consider their needs before we make some decisions. We have our ideas and we're like, what about this? But we ask the families too. They're really driving a lot of what we do based on what they need in this community. Simple things is Zeta asking, okay, do you need more of this? Should we buy more of this or ask for a food drive for this? And some parents, people are, no, we don't. You know, they tell us we don't like those items. They'll tell us, oh, we would love more cheese. We would love this. So we really talked to them when we expanded our hours. We knew that was the right thing to do. We wanted to verify it. Is it okay if we're only open one day a week? Or do you need more hours? Well, they wanted more hours
Mhm.
because life is life. And we make sure that we can, I believe we're one of the only ones open on a Saturday. Food banks may be open on a Saturday for part of the day in the morning. So that allows families that flexibility to come and receive the food and shop then. And we're open extended hours 3 days a week. We want their input. And sometimes we get, oh, you guys do enough. It's okay, but we keep asking and we want to know, and they get comfortable with us and they'll let us know. Then they begin to let us know what they think. And that's really important before we jump into anything in the future is what does the community need?
I know we're very excited, and hopefully it will happen this year, to be opening our kitchen for congregate meals. And we would love your input if any of the seniors in your participant families would enjoy coming over once or twice a week for a meal cooked in our kitchen. And we are definitely hoping to partner with you guys on getting that moving and how to get it moving and all the rest of it. So that's
That sounds
an exciting
fantastic.
thing. Yeah.
I believe that we also have a crochet knitting group in our future. And while the intention was that to be specifically for our Spanish speaking community, I've gotten a lot of pushback from other members of our community who also want a knitting crochet group. And so the lunch and the meals thing, I think it all goes hand in hand. I think people want togetherness. I think food is always a driving factor in part of that togetherness. And I think that we can do really fun things together, build more community movement.
Yeah, well, maybe I was going to say maybe the knitting group could evolve into a learn Spanish while you knit.
I love it. I love it.
And
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, I bet you some of our future residents over across the road would be good teachers of knitting and crocheting and that kind of thing too. So
Absolutely.
Mhm. Mhm.
And connecting children with seniors, there's nothing more beautiful than that.
exactly. Were there more questions on Facebook, Maureen?
There are not. I've been a little bit of a question hog, I think. So I may have asked all the questions that other people were going to ask. But there's still a little bit of time if someone wants to pop a question in either the chat box here on Zoom or on the comments bar on Facebook. So.
Well, while we're waiting for potentially some questions, one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, and Zaida can help me jump in here. So one of the things he's listening to our families. We do have families who have dietary restrictions, gluten-free items, non-dairy items, things like that. So we make an effort to have items available for our families for that. And we're working with partnerships with some different organizations in the community to become, no fancy word for it, but maybe like a monthly sponsor for that, where they get the almond milk for us and they get some gluten-free pastas and things like that. And they bring them in and we have those available for families for different options. For our Latino community, I always say it, everyone laughs at me the way I say it, but maseca, corn flour to make their own tortillas. Right at the very beginning of COVID, when we first switched to this model, we were asked about, did we have that? And we were like, no, we don't, but we can surely carry that. And we've been carrying it ever since, so that we have that available. So again, what are the needs of the people that we're working with that are part of our family?
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one question too, do you like if a gardener has excess produce of something, like extras or whatever, do you take that? You do? Awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we can actually take fresh eggs. We can take butchered meat. There are a lot of foods that I did not think that we were able to take that are perfectly fine. Last summer, we had so much fresh produce from local farms donated to us. It was absolutely incredible and so valuable to our participants. We had fresh corn on the cob and peppers and tomatoes, a huge variety of wonderful fresh produce. And we are and we're so grateful. Absolutely.
Nice.
Okay. Well, when you're getting ready to plant your garden this spring, I can provide you with all the alpaca poop you might need for fertilizer.
We were,
Excellent.
yes.
And it's you can put it right on there. You don't need to mature it or compost it. It can go straight from one to the other. So just let me know if you want a bucket or two brought up. I have it.
yes,
I've got my garden wish list right here, and I can cross that off, put Maureen's name right next to that.
I'm your girl.
All right.
Cool. That's great. Well, anything
can I
else?
tell one more kind of story that kind of
Sure.
leads into some of the stuff that we've been talking about? Is, again, the families that we work with, there's so many different needs and income levels and situations at home and who we partner with. And one of the groups we partner with is with the school district and their community transition program, which is for our special needs kids who have aged out of the school system at 18, but can stay in the community transition program until they're 21. And the school district works to partner with them to hopefully get them a job and give them job skills. So prior to COVID, we had started having the community transition program come in and volunteer with us, and they continue to volunteer with us. And we have one young man who we just love, and we have watched him grow to being someone who did not want to touch anything. He did not want to work. We're like, come on, and very kind of withdrawn, and watching him just blossom around us. And when he's there, he works and he talks to us and he knows the words to every song that's on the radio. And he knew also that there was a need at home for food, and his family was not a participant in our program yet. And so Zaida found that out, and we would let him pack, a bag or a box of food with some of the favorite items, and you could see him putting other stuff in there. And through that, we've connected with his family, and we've been able to connect them with different resources, and they're just amazing individuals. But we really enjoy that program, and we working with children that have different abilities and connecting with them. And we have a lot of families that have children with different abilities, and that affects what they can provide sometimes. And we enjoy that. Zaida, you have anything else on that one? Oh, I love that family.
I love the whole CTP program. Those kids bring so much to us, but also it's such a compliment to us that they come back after graduation and continue to volunteer with us, and they want to be there all the time, and it's wonderful.
Well, I
great.
can't imagine what this community would be like without you. We love you guys. It's so
Thank-
nice to learn more about what you do.
You're just
Thank
doing
you.
great work. It's inspiring. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll have you back again if you come.
We would.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.